So Mendy, this is for you. There's a saying about Hachnasas Archim. They say when you have, why is it that when you have a bigger place, all of a sudden you don't have any room? Psychologically, you're not interested. When you have a small place and you're packed, you're always happy to stuff another guy in a bunk bed. You have more room in the heart, so to speak. So I think it's just a concept of space. It has nothing to do with, I mean, it's a good question, but the answer is, look at the street here. You see, no cars kemat parked, and nobody's here. You see, you saw a lady walking by. You think it's a busy street? When I see one person on this street, I already feel like my space is invaded. I don't own this street, but if I'm walking up and down quietly, I feel like, oy vey, there's a guy on the block. I can't, my hispashtus is being affected. It's kind of like a stain on a white shirt and stuff like that. Anyway, so there was this photo taken of a book, and the book is about a story about, like, it mentions, you know what a Litvak is? And it goes, a Litvak is a person that's, they don't believe in miracles, they're rationalists, but they are pious Jews. They're learned, and they're believers, and they're medactic in mitzvahs, and so on. So what, so there's a guy, a Litvish Yid saw it, and he says, what is this? This is propaganda against Litvaks, that we don't believe in miracles. And they forgot the story. It was Reb Chaim Brisker. I just can't remember the details. I could remember the actual story without the details, but they said to him, let's go to one of these Hasidic Rebbes or something. Let's like go parade with him or something, because you're not doing any mufsim, and he's known for mufsim. So, and the answer the Litvaks give today, but they don't really know the history of it, is that there's a halachic issue about not performing miracles, but doing magic. But that back in the day, people believed that there was magic men and medicine men that can do stuff. But there's that, and then there's a halachic issue about doing mufsim as if you're doing anything, because all you could do is say, pray to God, I pray to God, you pray to God, we're all equal. You see a clear example of that in Islam. So in Islam, Muhammad doesn't perform any miracles. There's no story like with Moshe with the stick, and he comes to Mitzrayim, and they have magic, and he has the white magic of Yudke Vavke, and that's this god against that god. If you look at all the Makis, Dam Tzvadeh, Kinim Arev, these are all symbols of Egyptian gods. So kind of the story is that this god is going to overwhelm that god. So he so again, it happens that things are lost to history and people don't really know why. So the answer the Litvaks give today is because we believe that whatever the guy does with the mufsim, we do with Torah or something like that. And they say there's oisais and mufsim. So there's a joke the Litvaks say that, by the way, we grew up with jokes about the Litvaks, but we never heard Litvak jokes about the Chassidim. So they say something about oisais and mufsim, that there's people that they don't even know a ois, like they don't know ivre, amaratzim, but mufsim they can do. And that's true. It's like a magic man. Like you have today, you have like an Admor of Malta. And the Admor of Malta, he came to Israel, but he's more of he's like a Jewish guy, and he gives blessings. He even moves his hands around. And so some Litvish boys from Lakewood, they came to visit me before Purim. So they asked me like about him, and immediately they said, "Oh, is this guy not Bikaitis?" I said, "No, he's not. He's just a magic man. He doesn't know he doesn't know how to learn. He doesn't even know what you guys. He just knows he sells magic, and it gets him popular. What do you want? What do you want from him? He doesn't know better. I mean, he could be a quack, but then he could be half delusional. It could be he actually believes he has magical powers. Sometimes it happens, like what Joe was telling me about." A frum guy, a nice guy, a doctor, very smart man, an eye doctor. He actually is very sought after. He's good stuff. but he believes God speaks to him. So it's not just that he believes that he knows the right amount of candles to light and the right amount of chickens to slaughter and swing to make magic, but he actually believes God's speaking to him. That's next level bullshit. Because if God spoke to him, what did God say? That's when, no, come on, tell me. God must have said something interesting. So according to Islam, Muhammad doesn't do any miracles. So the Jews and the Muslims were having dialogue about whether Muhammad is a prophet or not. Again, this was back then when people were much more, there wasn't the high walls between religions. A lot of Jews converted and this and that. And the Jews didn't convert many people because the Jews always believed that their religion is it's a native religion. It's not something that you're evangelical. Everybody has their truth. Whatever your grandmother told you to do. So if Jews came to America, they weren't doing what Columbus and these missionaries converting the natives. They didn't have that in their doctrine. They had that there was a Jewish God that was very jealous about his own people. But he's not hawking other people to give up their faith and their truths and all that. So that's just the source of Yadus. Judaism has that in its doctrine, that it believes that there are other truths out there. I rarely get to see from people in my neighborhood, rarely, so it's a big deal. So we had a woman of a modern Orthodox shul called B'nai David Judea, and she was coming for Shabbos to this house minyan, and she was going to speak and her husband together. But I was very impressed about the concept. Okay, a woman teaching, that's wonderful. And it is the shul that I think ordained a woman, the first Orthodox shul to ordain a woman as clergy. Shaila is, what do they call her, a rabbi or marat? But the main thing is that for the future, it's going to make a big difference. So I'm very pro. The concept is great because it makes things better for Yiddishkeit when women have leadership. So she was speaking about Judaism and Islam, and she knew nothing. She didn't even know the basics. So she thought and she deals with interfaith, like Muslim students asking her, how is it possible for a Jewish atheist? How is a Jewish atheist Jewish? Isn't Judaism a religion and a faith? And according to the Rambam, you could say, yeah, it is, but then it's not. But then, because it goes back and forth. So is there a belief system or not that you have to have in order to be considered? So, she didn't understand that the Muslims also had many philosophers who didn't believe in the Quran and didn't believe in a lot of main stuff. The smarter they were, the less they believed. They kept quiet because of safety, because there was a lot of state power with these religions. Christianity and Islam had lots of state power. How they exercised it was different, but the main thing is it was dangerous. And in Judaism, we have Spinoza, Chedim, harmful. Sometimes it could be really bad, but not. There was no Inquisition. There was no real Judaism. They didn't even do Chedims too much. They say the Chedim in Amsterdam was done on Spinoza just because they wanted to protect the community, that the church and the government shouldn't get too worried that the Jews are producing one of the greatest philosophers, because he could lead Christians astray, right? And then hey, you're teaching stuff that we don't want. Okay. So she mentioned that Judaism, Moshe Rabbeinu, we don't deify Moshe Rabbeinu as a god or anything, unlike other religions. And she mentioned Islam, and she has no idea that the concept in Islam is monotheism is strict, and it comes from the Chumash. In the Chumash, you're not allowed to do any miracles and magic. That's Bechlal. If you're not in the Beis HaMikdash and you're not a Kohen and you're not authorized, you're not allowed to do any practices of magic. Magic means prayers, lighting candles, mufsim, giving people $1 for tzedakah, and the hint is that this is an amulet, obviously, and you keep it for protection, but you can't say it, because at least Lubavitcher Rebbe knew that you're not allowed to do that. He knew it. That's why he had to play it. If he didn't know, he didn't know. Like the guy with the lucky penny in the 40s, the Rebbe in Williamsburg with the lucky penny, straight up didn't know that you're not allowed to do that, according to the tradition, of course. And then it gets you into trouble with people who are traditionalists. So we covered what the modern Orthodox Rebbitzin, and we covered Look at it sitting right here. I'm blocking her son. And the mufsim. The best way to do mufsim is have long lines of people coming to you, asking for brachas, especially the rich, and the chances of people coming out with stories about you are going to be very high. But but I also believe that the Litvish, it wasn't just a tradition that they forgot the reason, but I do believe they were rationalists. So a lot of Litvish actually became Haskalah. A lot of Litvish were part of the Haskalah and stuff like that. So here's the question, did they not believe in Rebbes because they knew that nobody has the power of magic, and anyone that claims to be is just a quack? This is a consistent fact that always works. Every time you hear of another magician, he's never available for any honest questions and scrutiny and testing and to stand up to the scientific test for knowledge. If he has that power, just like a great surgeon can do stuff that other people can't, just be honest about it, You're sought after, you're special and this and that. And then comes the so that's the vort. We don't. So I don't know if it's a mix of both, or were they rationalists, or were they like the Rambam? I doubt that Rambam believed that anybody has magical powers. As a matter of fact, the Rambam very cleverly writes that a Navi has to be a guy that's he's got his shit together. But if we see in the Jewish history of the tradition of Nevi'im, they weren't guys that had their stuff together. So the Rambam's almost making it impossible for Jews to ever have a Navi, because he makes an impossible list. And why did the Rambam do this? Because clearly the Jews at the time, until today, the Jews said to the Muslims, when the Muslims came with the news that they have a prophet of God, Muhammad was a new prophet in town, sweeping across the Byzantine and empires. These people were tired from their wars, they just gave in, and the religion grew very fast, very quick, was because the Jews said, we got rid of our prophets hundreds of years ago. So what do we have? We have Rabbanim. Rabbanim teach you halacha. What's halacha? The minhagim, Negel Vaser, Shabbos, Kosher, Taryag mitzvahs, the ones we do, the ones we claim we do, the ones we say we learn about it, and then we yoitze. Imagine if Yiddishkeit had this concept that we are yoitze the mitzvah of tzedakah by learning about tzedakah. Nobody would survive. People would be dying, especially in times of hunger. So it's a joke, but there are rituals that we just don't do anymore. Not just Karbonis, but lots of other stuff. And so the funny claim is that we're yaitze by learning about it. Of course, the practical stuff, like learning about Yom Kippur, would never happen. Not even in prison, when Jews were in prison or in such situations. And learning about fasting on Yom Kippur, you're yaitze fasting, it's a joke. But once a guy didn't have a mikveh, his friend told him, you learn about mikvahs, and then you're yaitze. That worked, right? So, because mikveh is not so important. It's a mystical thing. It's not even important l'chadchila, so that's why you can play that game. So I don't know what's the reason that in the Litvish tradition, not only did these Litvish guys, these heads, not only did the regular Amchu Litvaks go for brachas, a lot of them they said, no, it's impossible. But their leaders never caved in, even in hard times when they needed the money, and they could do it by pretending to be miracles. You could have lines of people like Machne Yisrael coming from Manhattan, Elstein from Argentina coming, claiming that this guy is a wise guy and he's smart because I had good luck after I met him. They never fell into that. My question is, were they just push it because they were very honest and rational? It's very hard for a person to lie when he has a good character. Or was it a tradition that said, stay away from these things? You're not allowed to do divination. You're not allowed to affect God. Even prayer itself, believe it or not, is a form of trying to affect God, which you're not allowed to do, according to the Chumash. I'll try to leave a link with all the sources that you could actually get a good historical picture of what the life was like with the Chumash and those stuff that only a Kohen is allowed to do magic and so